Trump wasted no time going in. Don't worry about the festivities. Don't worry about the inauguration. We're still going to sign the executive orders. Well, today we're going to talk about some of those executive orders, and I know everybody's talking about them, so we're going to talk about some of the ones that no one is speaking about. If you remember that meeting with Mr. Gates a few weeks ago, you'd have thought he'd have talked Trump into something. Well, actually, he may have talked Trump out of something. So we'll discuss what Donald Trump and Bill Gates don't have in common. And then also we're going to discuss the weird thing at the inauguration. Some people speculated, why was Vance inaugurated first at 12 o'clock, then Trump after? And then, what about Trump's hands? Where was his hand? Was it a rushed inauguration? What was all about that? We're going to talk about my personal opinion on that. I don't think it's much of nothing, but I do want to address some other things that happened previous to actually being sworn in. Let's dive into some of these stories and a few more because we just declared 2 states of emergencies. What do those declarations mean as Trump is back at the White House? Let's dive in.
Yeah, I can read the signs. You need to get away.
Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so very much for being here. And again, we humbly thank you for watching us today. I know everybody is talking about, of course, what happened yesterday with the inauguration, and it seems like everybody is doing the same old thing. They're talking about the executive orders and how the Democrats feel about it and how Republicans feel about it, and all these confirmations, and that's all good because it is swinging in a way of positivity. We'll discuss some of those like everybody else is because I think they're important, but then we're going to discuss some that were not talked about as much but that have just as much importance. 2 that actually references me and you and how important it should be to us. J6 is important. I'm glad that he pardoned those. Yes, I'm glad that we, pulled out of the climate accords, with Paris. But there's actually some that actually deal with your money, and we're going to discuss those. First, let's dive into some of the executive orders. Then we're going to talk about the state of emergencies, and then we're going to wrap up talking about the Bible incident that happened at the inauguration. And stay tuned to that because I want to give you my personal opinion. Now, first, we know that he pardoned 1,500 J6ers. Huge. I think that's great. You saw a lot of reaction online about people just being extremely overjoyed, some of those. And then, of course, some of those will be let out of prison today. A good move. It actually makes the Democrats reel a little bit. But Democrats really don't have a leg to stand on, especially after the preemptive pardons yesterday for the Biden family, for J6 committee, and also people like Fauci. That was actually the best thing that could have happened. So it allowed the openness where people can't really, scoriate Trump over, pardoning people that's been going through something for 5 years, basically. I mean, think about this now. He is pardoning people, just like, remember, Biden pardoned more than anyone that were convicted criminals. 2 of those people, actually, FBI was up in arms about because 2 of the people that he pardoned, Biden pardoned, were 2 people that killed FBI agents. So it kind of rubbed the FBI the wrong way. However, Trump is pardoning people who had no murders, no convictions like that, no serious crimes. It was more political stunt. And he pardoned them. So I think he had a way to pardon them, and it made him look even better. Because ultimately, Biden walks out pardoning his whole family, a preemptive pardon, and pardoning Liz Cheney and J6 committee. Come on. So it shows that everybody knew what was coming, and so what he did was he went on and preemptive pardoned the people that caused the problems for the J6. So yes, everybody knew that was going to happen. I think this opens the door for, to me, Trump doing pardons like for Ross Ulbright, for pardons like Snowden. I think that's actually what opened the door for that. So I hope to see some more pardons coming from Trump, especially from ones that are open into less regulation and actually more free speech. Remember, these were whistleblowers. They had information, and I think that this would be one thing to do is to pardon someone like Snowden. I think that would be huge. 2 things that I think that Trump did yesterday was absolutely huge. And I want to bring those up. Trump fires over 1,000 Biden appointees day 1. Trump pardons 1,500 January J6ers. Trump withdraws from the Paris Agreement climate accords. Here's another good one. Trump pauses all foreign aid for review for 90 days. That's one a lot of people are not talking about. But he says, look, we're going to pause giving our money away to people, especially if they don't like us. Also, what I think this does is really open negotiations with the tariff situation. He had a little last night when they were talking to him, and he was like, Spain, what we're going to do, they're part of the BRICS countries, and they're not the BRICS countries, but these countries are all buying into the fact of BRICS making this new currency. So he told him, he said, if they don't want our money and BRICS countries don't want our money, then therefore they're going to be tariffed. And so what he does is he pauses this money going worldwide for 90 days as leverage. I think this is a huge executive order to say, look, we're going to pause this. Nobody's getting our money anymore until we renegotiate. I think that's great. I think we have it's like having a dry erase board. You go to a dry erase board and you erase everything off and say, okay, we're starting over. And I think that's good. I think that shows that, look, you're not just going to get our money for no reason. And so we're going to bring it all back to the drawing board to say, okay, what are you going to do for me as I give you this money? We talk about quid pro quos. This is not really a quid pro quo that I'm against. I'm just saying, look, if you're going to get our tax dollars, which I don't believe any country should unless we get something in return, but if you're going to get our tax dollars, you better have something coming back to us, or you better start buying our goods, so therefore it actually repays us our money. We need to quit giving money away. So I think this was a huge move when Trump did this executive order for a 90 days pause. I love that Trump, and this is one of the big ones, I love that Trump ended birthright citizenship with executive order. That's huge. Now, I don't know, I figure that one will face some time in court, but executive orders are not supposed to, kind of like pardons, but for him to say, look, I'm done with birthright citizenship, I think it was a monster move. I think that's what we see a lot of times with these anchor babies. What they call anchor babies is people come in, have a baby real quick here, and it allows the parents to stay here. Well, they said on the border yesterday, they declared one national emergency for the border, and we'll talk about a little bit more of that. But basically it was saying, look, we're going to put the buoys in, we're going to put border agents on the border to where no one can cross. Now, if you notice, there was a convoy that was coming literally yesterday to cross the border, and they were stopped. Also, the CBP app, the one that Biden made that was actually allowing people to actually get into this country with our billions of dollars of taxation, flying people in, busing people in, is been gone. They canceled the app. So I thought that was huge. Another one I thought that was really good is Trump to release assassination files in a transparency move. What he's trying to say is, look, we're going to start opening up some of these things that they've tried to hide from you, including things about my attempts, and also we're going to talk about some of the other ones that we have been talking about for years upon years, JFK, things like that. I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of that come out. Now let's jump into the situation with BRICS and with this state of emergency, the national declaration on the border, and how now they were going to secure the border. There were buoys going back in the water, which were encouraging signs. Again, you see people crying on the other side of the border, and I know, heartfelt as a Christian, it breaks my heart. But these countries have to learn to take care of their own people. And I think that this is where, if you want to talk about American dollars being spent and you want to talk about help for other countries, you start building these apartment complexes or whatever over there. It would save us a tremendous amount of money to make camps or make areas for people to get food and shelter on other people's third world countries, and start helping their governments learn how to do business, learn how to capitalize on some of the things in their own regions, their rare earth minerals, or what they can produce for the world. Learn how to trade better. So let's start teaching them and educating them how to be a better country versus taking all their people and coming here with them. It makes no sense. So I think that's great that he declared that state of emergency. Another one that impacts us the most, and this goes back to one of those important executive orders yesterday, along with it being declared a state of emergency that impacts me and you. It was the fact that he declared basically drill baby drill. And this was something he's been talking about for a while, but remember, you and I, we feel how much energy costs. So he did a state of emergency declaration based on the fact of the price of energy. Now think about it. Your car gas, your gasoline or diesel, has went up probably $1 to $1.50 since he was in office last. Think about how much you drive and how much that's cost you. I don't know about you, but my energy, my utility bill, of course it's snowing outside, so it's going to be worse because I'll probably lose power in just a little bit. But that's a monopolized thing. Shouldn't be. These energies have a monopoly because I can't go shop that out. Well, he's saying we're going to try to lower the interest. We're going to try to lower your energy bills by lowering the cost of natural gas propane, other fuels, along with making sure these subsidies go to actually help American people. So for instance, I used to pay for all our buildings, outbuildings, farm buildings, home, all that, $300 or $400 a month, which to me was too high anyway. But now I'm paying closer to $600 to $700 a month for the same property, the same energy. Nothing's changed, nothing's extra, other than the fact that I'm getting charged more because of the energy use. It's not the fact that I'm using more energy, it's the fact that it costs more to use the energy that I'm getting. So therefore, I think this is a great move, because you and I both know the cost of gasoline, the cost of fuel, the cost of energy is affected your food, your grocer, your trucking, your transportation, and everything that you do deals with that. So I think that one actually benefits the most, that he says, I'm going to declare a state of emergency on our energy so we can get the prices down. We're going to start pumping more fuel. And he actually said, Europe will buy our natural gas, our LNG. They will take our imports, or they will face tariffs too. I think that's a great move. Leverage. Again, look, the people that they're trying to fight against in Russia, they're buying their fuel still. Does that make sense to you? No, it doesn't. And for instance, us, we have the capabilities to drill and to get fuel. I heard a guy yesterday, I don't know if y'all watch Meat Eater. He's a hunter on YouTube, and his own show on Outdoor Channel and things like that. But he made a comment yesterday I thought was really good. And if you watched him on Joe Rogan, you know this. But his name is Steve Ranella. And he said, for the longest, I always heard that these oil rigs are terrible and they're tearing up the Gulf and they're hurting the ecosystem. Well, what we realized is things like the wind and solar energy was hurting the ecosystems. I mean, that's actually what's hurting the pastures and hurting the geese and duck flocks and whales and all that. But I digress. That's what I like what he said. He said, for the longest, I used to fish in the Gulf every year. He said, and we could literally snorkel in the Gulf and you could never see a fish. He said, we could go fish in certain areas and never see a fish. He said, what's amazing is now when we go fish, he said, we literally go to the oil rigs, because what they've done is they've built a habitat and almost this man-made coral reef for animals. He said, if you want to catch fish or you want to see aquatic life, you go by those oil rigs. Now, here's what I'm saying. We can learn to be very careful with our environment, because again, this is God's earth. We believe in it. I'm a regenerative farmer, so I want to make sure that I'm taking care of the animals, but also taking care of the wildlife, and also making sure that I'm building structures that I need for my farm. Therefore, I learn to give back to my land as my land gives to me. Well, God has given us wonderful assets when it comes to LNG and with oil and rare earth minerals to an extent where we can get some of these things and it can actually make it better for you and for me and our families. At the same time, respecting and caring for our earth. We have to learn to do that. And we have to learn to do exactly what he was talking about. And so this state of emergency actually benefits us probably the most. Now, another one was huge, and this is the one I want to go back with Bill Gates. Trump pulled out of WHO. Now, I know that was kind of a speculative thing, and people talked about it, and it really kind of went under the radar for a long time that he was talking about pulling out of the WHO. But I want to read this to you. I thought this was a good report from Wall Street Apes. He said, the biggest loser with Donald Trump signing the executive orders and withdrawing from the United States from the WHO is Bill Gates. He says Bill Gates is responsible for 88% of the total philanthropic funding for the WHO. He says, I posted today about the official testimony that we see WHO and Bill Gates doing almost a health grab. 70 to 85% of the funding comes from donors to where they want their money spent. Bill Gates donated over $319 million to the mainstream media. Well, therefore, the mainstream media doesn't really talk about Bill Gates in a negative sense. So you see how if WHO is getting funded 75 to 80% by billionaires like Bill or like others, they're going to do what the beck and call of those oligarchs or billionaires want. Well, it's just like it says what we've realized is these donors only wanted global power grabs. If you heard Bill Gates' interview the other day, he said, well, I'm into national medicine. I'm into making sure that we have a global health push. Bill Gates made a computer. I mean, so what are we giving him this power for? So I think it's great that Trump pulls out the WHO, because what I think the WHO, CDC, what I think the WHO and a lot of these groups, these NGOs and these people that get billions of dollars of our taxpayer money is really not helping us as Americans. It's helping control people of the world in the name of the people that are funding it. So I love the fact that Trump pulled out of this, and I think that this looks great on him because ultimately, Bill Gates had a meeting with him last week, and he said it went great. And now this again gives leverage to Trump because even though the meeting may have been great, Trump did exactly what Bill Gates probably didn't want him to do, which was pull out of the WHO, the World Health Organization. When we realize, again, let me go back and say this. When I realize that there's a problem with my home, I had a leak in my bath the other day. One of our baths in our kids' bathroom was leaking, so we had to get it fixed. Well, so what we did is we had to put something on the back burner that we were going to spend money on because there was a need in our home. Okay? So we're talking about building a greenhouse, and we're going to build that greenhouse, but that extra money that I was going towards the greenhouse for this month could not go to it because it had to go to something inside our home. It's the same way with America. What we have to realize is there could be a lot of things that we need to do out in the world to make it better. There could be a lot of great health organizations. There could be a lot of great funds and things that we could do for other countries. And I want to do that. I want to help other countries. I want to give them food and water and be good to them because I think that's what God calls us to do. But we have to remember there's a leak in our own bathroom. So it's the same thing. I think what Trump is saying is, look, we're going to pull out of all this stuff. We're going to put a 90-day recension on the money that we're sending out because we need to get our house in order first. I could have left a leaky bathroom, but what would that happen? It would have a leaky, messed up floor. It had my sheetrock messed up behind it. It would have then caused mold, and then I've got a bigger problem. So I had to stop and fix the problem first in my home before I started working out stuff outside my home. That's, I think, the benefit of pulling out of the WHO. I think that's the benefit of rescinding a 90-day push of where our money goes. We need to make sure that we can get our, for lack of better terms, our crap together before we start moving towards helping other individuals. Let's move on to kind of our BRICS countries again. Russia comes out and states that he believes that Trump is the reason that we will not see World War III. Now listen to that now. He does a big congratulatory message to Trump, and he says, I believe by Trump winning, we will prevent World War III. Now, Trump spoke yesterday and said Zelensky had called him and said that he is ready for peace. Trump yesterday proved that America is back on top, and he is a staunch leader. I mean, there's people, for instance, I laughed because all these movie stars, all these big tech advisors, all these people that truly hated Trump 5-10 years ago now are singing at his concerts, and they're there with him at his inaugural ball. It shows how bad Biden did, and it shows how bad liberal leadership has led us. And I think it's funny because like CNN and MSNBC had all these Democrats on yesterday talking about how bad Trump was and how all these pardons are terrible, but they really have no leg to stand on. While their legacy media is bleeding and literally losing hundreds of millions of dollars, look at CNN, how much money they've lost in the last 5 years. Same way with MSNBC. They're trying to give soapbox and speaking time to all these Democrats, and to be honest with you, they were completely washed out yesterday because people know there's truth. Just like they were trying to start this big deal with Elon Musk and the way he did his hands. That stuff right there, if Democrats keep on that and legacy media keeps talking like that, it's going to put them in their early grave, because what it's going to do is going to make them be so irrelevant that people don't even care anymore. How many people truly watch the news anymore? I couldn't imagine going to sit down and watch CNN or MSNBC or even Fox News personally. Who does that? Who watches cable news anymore when we have devices that we can get at our hands from the sources? It's crazy. So I think this is great when Trump said, look, I'm here to solve the problem. And even Russian leader said, I think Trump will keep us and prevent World War III. That's encouraging. It should be encouraging to all Americans, even Democrats. Another thing that was huge is when Trump said, look, I want to work with BRICS countries, but he said they will not build a currency against mine. He said, so in our agreements, Part of the agreements that we do across the world when it comes to tariffs and when it comes to leverage is you're not going to put any kind of money against us to cause problems for the dollar. Now, you can talk about crypto, you can talk about all that, but ultimately no one wants to destroy the dollar, especially Trump. Gold is starting to rise and find leverage again. So here's what we're going to see. We're going to see Trump use all that and say, look, we want better relationships, we want better trade, we want better negotiations, but you will not have something competing against our dollar, because ultimately we're just going to stick a tariff on your goods. And people are like, oh my gosh, that's going to make everything go up. Do you realize if we didn't buy China's goods, China's economy would tank? If we didn't buy Indian goods, India's economy would tank. So it's a leverage. It's a part of this a negotiation. Don't think that we're going to inflate and tax everything and make everything expensive just because we're putting tariffs on it. It's all a ploy. Either you're going to pay the tariff or we're going to work on a negotiation instead of having trade deficits like we had. $1.4 trillion trade deficit is what Biden had when Trump came in office. So I think all these things are absolutely great. The two state of emergencies, the two state of emergencies, or the national declarations for the border and for the energy. A lot of these policies that he did yesterday with the executive orders, a lot of these things are good. And also, it's almost like, we don't need to be funding things like all these countries and World Health Organization and climate accords, because we're wasting our money when we can be focused on here. Again, calling out North Carolina, calling out the California fires, and how he wants to help the people that government has pretty much left behind. Huge. Day one, day two, both exciting. I love to see Tom Homan talked about how he's going to get some of these people out of the country even starting today. That is true leadership. Now, they're already bringing charges. They already filed lawsuits against Trump and against Elon already. So lawfare will stop. So the question is your congressman and is the people that quote-unquote support Trump, are they going to be strong enough to say, no matter what happens, we will keep America thriving, America first, and trying to do American principles to make the American people back on top? That's what it's going to come down to. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on some of these executive orders. It is a good day. I mean, don't get me wrong. Anything and everything can happen. And I know, inaugurations are always at the peak. It seems like everybody's, at that time, the president's always the most popular. And of course, it starts going down and trending down. But to be honest with you, there's some good things happening in America. And don't let legacy media or these Democrats try to wane the support and try to wane the goodness of what American can be. Now, last thing I want to mention is the Bibles. Trump did not put his hand on the Bibles, and everybody's making a huge deal about that. Actually, people are making a big deal that actually Vance went first, and he went right at 12 when usually the president goes. All that's fluff. I kind of blame Roberts. Roberts looked a little nervous. I guess that's why he started doing the oath before Trump even got his left hand on the Bibles. Melania wasn't even ready. So he put his right hand up. I mean, what was encouraging is you can take all that and make that a big deal. But Franklin Graham's prayer to Jesus Christ was huge. The fact that they sang 2 hymns and played 2 hymns during the service of the inaugural ball and of the inauguration, that's huge. Now, would I have loved to see his hands on the Bible? Yeah, but I think it's just a flub up. It was a quick talk. Melania wasn't ready. Robert started flowing with the oath, and Trump started going with it, and he probably just didn't think nothing about it. I don't think there's anything to it. So don't let people make some stories of mountains out of molehills. I think that God can use any man, and I think God can use Trump and use America to do great things, and I'm excited to be part of it. Guys, thank you so much for watching. God bless.